the Samsung Galaxy Z TriFold. Now, this is Samsung's dual folding device, although they're calling it a TriFold. And I was lucky enough to have the world's first exclusive hands-on. So I flew over to Korea and they had set everything up. I got to unbox it as well. So world's first unboxing too. And it's a pretty impressive device. Just to kind of run through what to expect. So it has a 6.2-inch cover display, which is very similar to what we've got on the Z Fold 7. Now, this then opens up not once, but twice to reveal the 10-inch CAD display. This has a 16:11 aspect ratio. It still has 120 Hz. It's not quite as bright as the cover display, so 1600 nits instead of 2600 nits, but it's a full-fledged tablet, and this is what's super impressive. With the Fold 7, you get a larger screen, but you don't get a full-fledged tablet. With the Z TriFold, you do get a full-fledged tablet. Still, this point, it is just 3.9 millimeters thin, 4.2 millimeters around where the USB Type-C port is, 309 grams, so quite a bit heavier compared to the Fold 7, and 12.9 millimeters when it's folded, so around 4 millimeters thicker compared to the Fold 7 as well. Apart from that, no S Pen support, something that a lot of people were asking about. We do get IP48 for the rating. It supports Samsung DeX out of the box, so you're going to be able to use Samsung DeX on that 10-inch display, so you're not going to have to connect it onto an external display. If you do, then you can expand that display as well. And it has the same camera setup as the Fold 7. So 10 megapixel front and inner cameras. We have a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 200 megapixel primary camera, as well as a 10 megapixel 3x telephoto camera. Performance, Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, either 512 or 1 terabyte of storage. 5,600 milliamp hour battery, which is the largest in any Z series. It's actually split between 3 batteries, which is pretty crazy. 45 watts of charging, so faster than the Fold 7. 15 watts of wireless charging. And currently, it's only available in Korea. Other regions are going to be coming soon. All right, so that was a lot of information that I broke down. Now, in terms of my first impressions, very, very cool. I mean, just in terms of the hardware and the engineering that Samsung has done, very cool. Yes, it's a thicker device, but it's not as thick as the Fold 1. So it's the first generation. I'm not sure if they could get it any thinner. What do you think?
It's actually slightly thicker than the Fold 6.
Okay, so there you go. It's not bad.
I think the Fold 6 is 12.6 or 12.1, and this is 12.9.
So this is the thing. I mean, because we've got the 3 layers, you have to remember that each layer is like, 4.2 where the USB Type-C port is. And then you've got the even thinner layers, which also contain batteries. So, regardless of what people might be saying, it is a very impressive device. One of the points, and it's something that a lot of people have been talking about and discussing, is that it's not like the Huawei Mate X, right? Mate X-T, which has 3 states. So it has a smartphone state, then it goes into sort of a larger smartphone like we have with the Fold, and then it goes into a full tablet. So you have those 3 states. With the Z TriFold, there are only 2 states. There's using it as a smartphone with a 6.5-inch cover display, or opening it up fully to that 10-inch display. There is no in between. There's no flex mode or anything like that as well, like we have with the Fold. It's just a full-fledged tablet. So that is one thing. Having something in between would have been nice. Samsung's argument, which I agree with personally, is that because the inner display is the most fragile, having that in the way that Huawei do is going to make it damaged. This way, unless you're using it, it's going to be protected. When it's going in and out of your pocket, that folding display is not going to be exposed to the elements, should we say.
Okay, so them saying that, and since you've tried both devices, right? At least you've felt them. Which way are you leaning? Are you leaning towards Huawei's, 3-stage device compared to Samsung's 2-stage? Where are you in that argument?
So if I'm completely honest, like with the Mate X-T, I've not actually had a chance to hold it in hand, unfortunately.
Wait, am I daydreaming? Oh my God.
They're not. It's Huawei. Oh man, remember how many times we reached out to them?
Yes.
But they just didn't. So hey, I've not had a chance to try it out in hand. So I'm going to be completely honest here. However, using lots of folding devices over the past many years, that is one thing. That folding display is always going to be fragile, right? Regardless of what you do. You can call it ultra thin glass, you can do whatever. It's never going to be a Gorilla Glass Victus display. So, you can shape it however you want, but going in and out of your pocket, it is going to get scratched up. So at least with the Z TriFold, it is covered unless you're using it.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I kind of agree. I think a lot of people have been complaining back and forth and saying, you know what, I wish I had that 3-stage. It's a nice idea, but for a device that's that expensive, and we're not in that, we're not in the future of, say, movies like Avatar and the rest of them, where you just have things that open up and do many things that won't break. To me, it's only practical that it has to have a clear set function. And I think Samsung went with a clear set function of being like, hey, look, you want to have a big tablet? Sure. We give you a nice big tablet. You want to have a phone? We give you a phone. You want to have a mini tablet that has a slightly thicker side that feels like a book? Nah, not so much. Just get yourself a Z Fold, right? Just get a Z Fold and be done with it. I think that is more practical, that even though the other one looks great, or looks at least like fantastic, this just makes so much more sense.
I think with Samsung as well, with all of the situations that we talk about, they have to ship out many more units than pretty much any other manufacturer when it comes to things like these foldables. So they also have to kind of take that into consideration, that, okay, we need to make something that's durable, because if you sell 10,000 of units and 2 of them fail, it's not a big deal. When you're selling 1 million, those 2 very quickly become, 200. And that's when you're like, okay, this is a problem. So I think they do have to be mindful of that. Pricing wise, it is supposed to be priced at 3,590,000 Korean wons. Now that, if you do like for like, it translates to about 2,450 US dollars. But obviously with tariffs and things like that, it's going to be higher. I did some calculations the way I am. So I kind of looked at the price. I did the math, right? So if you look at the Fold 7, the Korean won price for, say, for instance, the 256 model, then if we look for the actual conversion, it's around $1,620, which is not what the price is of the Fold 7, right? It's $2,000. So if we kind of use that same ratio, then we're looking at around, I would say, $2,900 to $3,000 is when it releases. They're saying that it's going to come out Q1 of 2026 in the US. No availability in the UK, they've talked about. So Korea, Singapore, UAE, China, and US. So unfortunately, there's been so many people in the UK asking me, when can I get a hold of this, right? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Don't think you're going to be able to.
You might have to fly to Korea or Singapore to pick one up, because even I think in the States, it's going to be limited here in the States as well.
Yeah, I think so. What's interesting, what I found interesting is that there is no flex. So when it's fully flat open, it feels like a tablet. Now, creases, yes, the creases are visible, right? And people straight away is crazy because mine was only one of the 2 videos that had the exclusive. Obviously, the videos were everywhere, right? And people were specifically picking out where you could see the creases. And I'm like, look, the creases are there, but when you're looking at it head on, they're not so visible, right? Obviously, if you're going to look at them from an angle, you are going to be able to see those creases, but head on, not too bad. I think that's something that you're just going to have to keep in mind, because the fold on the right-hand side obviously has to be a larger fold as well. So the crease has to be larger, because it's not only folding flat shut, but it's got another element on top of it before it does that, right? So there is that element there. The other thing that I just posted about as well recently is that there is only one right way to fold this, okay? So you are using it, then you fold it open once and you fold it up twice, open twice, right? So you can't fold it the other way around. So if you try to fold it from the right-hand side, for instance, it will warn you, it will vibrate quite, harshly. It will be like,
it's
hey,
like
don't
this.
do this. Yeah. Stop it. Stop it. You can, although you can put the right-hand side all the way down and it'll have a bit of a gap. If you try to fold the left-hand side over it, which is not supposed to do, it will vibrate even more and warn you, right? Now, obviously, if you're Zach and you're testing durability, you can go ahead and do it all the way and see what's going to happen there if he gets hold of it. But the fact is that this is something that you would have to intentionally do to damage it. You could, I think you can damage it, but it's not something that, oh, whoops, I ended up folding it the wrong way and it's damaged. No, you'd have to be very stupid to do that, right? Because
Yeah,
it's something you would have to do very deliberately if you wanted to damage it, but it's not something that you can mistakenly do, should we say.
that's cool.
Apart from that, very interesting. The software has been optimized. So because you've got the tablet software, obviously we mentioned Dex, but when you're using 3 windows at one time, I've said this before, like when you're using the Z Fold 7 in my review, I said that look, having 2 windows side by side, amazing. I use it all the time. It's great for comparing things. I was booking some hotels the other day and just putting 2 different websites side by side, being able to compare the prices of the exact same place. So
Mhm.
useful. That's brilliant. But then when you've got a third window on the Fold 7, then it becomes a little bit tight, right? That you've got 2 little windows. I'm not saying there are no use cases for it. There are use cases for it, but it's quite limited. When you're looking at the Z TriFold, you can have 3 portrait windows on the same display. So think of it as having 3 smartphones side by side. Now, that is true multitasking, right? And it's fully usable. All those 3 windows are fully usable. And this is where I think, this has a key advantage where the software has been optimized very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of the things that I really like from it, especially looking at your example, I was saying that in my video, which I made of your video, the inception of videos, is that, that for us content creators, this is the great social media app. I can have YouTube, IG, and TikTok, and I can just basically look at my streams in full, correction, because you have a screen for each one, right? You have
Yep.
exactly a phone for each slate, so to speak.
Mm.
So whether it's social media, or whether you're like I said, whether you're shopping, holidays, for instance, I can imagine in the future, like maybe next Christmas, you're trying to buy gifts for relatives, family members, and typically you want to sit down on your computer and be like, okay, let me find the
Mm.
best deal. Now you can just, be on the park bench and be like, okay, I got this. Here we go. Let's
Yeah.
just open it out and be done.
The joke is if you're a millennial, then if there's a purchase over like $50, you need to sit down on a laptop or a computer and do that purchase. I don't know, these Gen Z kids, man, just buying, multiple $1,000 purchases on their smartphone.
I
Yeah, I
know,
ain't
I
doing none of
know.
that.
You
I
know
do
what
none
it
of that
is?
rubbish.
It's so funny you mentioned that. I had a friend when, because you can buy your Tesla off the Tesla app, right?
Yeah.
And she did that. I'm like, I know how, but didn't you just like sit down and like look at it and then go to the dealer and
Yeah.
check out the car? And I was just like, no,
Yeah.
I just hit it
Ordered it on
and
the
I'm
app.
good.
It's crazy,
No.
crazy times. But with the trifold, you can also, if you get a case with a kickstand. So now let me just clarify that the case that comes included out of the box, because it does come with a case, does not have a kickstand. There is a
Okay.
separate case that you would buy with a kickstand. If you have that kickstand and you connect it to a mouse and keyboard, again, productivity, amazing. Like if you're writing scripts or stuff like that, that's going to be great for that. I can tell Fisher's probably very jealous that I got
Oh yeah, he's
to
probably
check
like,
this out. Love you, Fisher. If I had it with me, I would have sent it over for you to test out, man. But we only got that one day with it. So we're hoping when the review samples are out, we can check it out. Because one of the other things that we need to test out is the battery life, right? Because yes, it's got
Mhm.
quite a significantly large battery compared to the Fold 7. So 5,600 milliamps versus 4,400. But it's not as big as what we've got on, say, the Tab S11, right? So how good is that battery life going to be? Because you've got a much larger display. 8 inches on the Fold versus the 10 inches on the TriFold might not seem like it much, but when you look at them side by side, that is a lot more real estate. You've got a lot more usable surface area, which is going to be needing more power. So when you consider that side of things, how good is the battery life going to be? Obviously, it's going to depend on how much you use the large display versus the regular display. If you're using just a large display, it's not going to be as good. So this is something we're going to have to wait and see for.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's time for Samsung to go to silicon carbon, at least for these devices, maybe not for the main line, just because, we've been reviewing the Oppos, the Vivos have
OnePlus.
come out at OnePlus, 70, I mean, I have the Red Magic phone, 7,500 milliamp batteries. I can game for 3 hours. I game for 2 hours and it dropped from 100 to 88%. 2 hours a game.
That's crazy. Now, so you know what's interesting that you mentioned that? If we compare, say, the OnePlus 15, right, which
Yeah.
has a 300 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah.
That regular smartphone has a significantly larger battery than this trifold phone. Because 5,600 in isolation sounds great. But then as soon as you compare it to something like the OnePlus 15, that's got a significantly larger capacity battery and it's using silicon carbon. So yeah, I totally agree. Having that there would have made a significant impact, but battery life is something we're going to have to wait and see for. The other thing is that it's got the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, so that's the same as what we've got on the Fold 7. It's not got the 8 Elite Gen 5, which is a new chip, which is going to be on likely the S26 series, which we'll be talking about in a bit, and all of the new flagships that are coming out. So already it's kind of like, a step behind, should we say, although the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, I mean, I've got it here on the Fold 7, absolutely fine. It's going to be great for a few years, but it's not the latest, especially when you're paying that price. You kind of want the latest, right?
Oh yeah, I think that is something Samsung needs to readdress. And I think maybe changing the launch windows for this device and things like that, because when you're paying $3,000 for a device like this, you want everything to stack up. So that includes processor, battery life, everything has to stack up, including cameras as well. So I don't think Samsung had to launch this device now. Like, there was no need in the calendar, in their books, especially considering how well the Fold 7 has been selling, right? They actually mentioned how they've actually increased production. I really feel like this device should have been moved to next year, to maybe like a May or something. Just some period in between that. Yes, we're not selling as much, but here's the new greatness that we have, right? I just think that placing it in the position where it gets the newer processor, or at least is in that mid-cycle spin, makes it just feel like, okay, if you're going to spend the money, again, it's not for everyone. It's going to be about $3,000. So it really doesn't matter. Just put it in the position where whoever has $3,000 feels like, yes, I've got the best.
I think so. I think there's also an element of maybe the production didn't go to plan because maybe they were going to release it earlier on. Because remember, they teased it in that glass box in October time as well. So I think there's a few layers to that because, the production maybe didn't match up to when they wanted to release it. But nevertheless, I think it's one of those devices where they're kind of showing off what they can do. Obviously, for its particular form factor, it is the first in its generation. That's why it's called the Z TriFold. When we've got the Z TriFold 2 or whatever it's going to be called, I think that's when we're going to see more of a progression. Maybe they'll release it at the same time as the Fold 8. Who knows, right? Where it's a side by side. It's like, hey, if you want a regular folding smartphone, here's the Fold 8. Brilliant. For those of you, maybe it's a small number, who really want to have a tablet in your pocket, then this is what you've got the offering for. Maybe they're going to go that way. I personally still think that the Fold 7 is the one for most people. This is a very specific niche, right? I don't think this is going to be for everyone.
Oh, no, I agree. I just really hope that we can get the pricing for the Fold 7 down to $1,500. I really think that that's like the perfect spot for the Fold 7 where, it's the cost of a maximum price, either Galaxy S25 Ultra on iPhone, right? And I think that's where, if you hit that price point, you're going to see it everywhere because it's already a device that a lot of people like. For the TriFold, I don't think it's going to drop as much in price in the future. But again, it will stay as the pinnacle and pedigree. And I think Samsung really needs to look at it from this perspective. The Galaxy S25 Ultra is not your pinnacle device. It cannot be your pinnacle device. It can be your pinnacle candy bar phone. But as we move to the Z Fold, to the TriFold, they have to go that way. It really has to show it that way, because if it doesn't have the best cameras, the best battery, all that stuff, then what am I paying for?
Yeah. If you're paying the extra for the Fold, everything else should either match or exceed what is on the flagship. Let's see what they're going to do next. If you want to see full coverage of the Z TriFold, that is on the main channel. Do go ahead and check that out. And that's where I've covered it in detail. Enabong has also done a video with his reactions there too, so you can check it out. If we do get our hands on it in Jan or whenever that is, then we'll be doing more coverage with it.
I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to hear the full podcast episode, then that will be linked down below. And if you want to see more clips like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss them. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks, and I'll see you next time.